In your previous lesson, you bisected a line segment, you bisected a given angle. And now we are going to construct spatial angles. And these spatial angles include 60 degrees, 30 degrees, 90 degrees, and that of 45 degrees. Now we will start with 60 and 30 degree angles. How do we construct them? Remember, in your previous lesson, you are told you are only going to use the compass and then the straight edge or a ruler. These are the two tools you are going to use to do your construction. Now we go on. Now we know that angles in an equilateral triangle are all 60 degrees in size. That is a fact. When we hear equilateral, it means a triangle that has 3 equal sides. So if it has 3 equal sides, obviously it will also have 3 equal angles. And each of the angles is 60 degrees. So what are the methods of constructing 60 degrees? We have 2 methods. We will start with method 1. Now what are the steps? Step 1, it says draw one arm PQ of the angle that you are supposed to construct. When we hear an arm, it means a side of the angle, one side of the angle that we are supposed to construct. So the first thing we do, we construct that arm, and here we are referring to it as PQ. Now step 2. Step 2, we place the point of the compass at point P. With a convenient radius, draw an arc that passes through Q. Step 3, what do? We place the point of the compass at Q with the same radius. This is very important. With the same radius. The radius you had in step 2, it should not be changed. With that same radius, put the compass point at Q and then draw an arc that will intersect the first arc you have drawn in step 2 and label that point of intersection as R. Then the last thing we do is join point P to point R. The angle that we have now constructed is called angle QPR, and it will be 60 degrees. Let's go and do these things. Now, what are we supposed to do first? In step 1, we are supposed to construct the arm of the angle that we are going to construct, and that arm will be referred to as PQ. So we draw a straight line. That's my straight line. On this straight line, I am going to mark 2 points. One point will be called P and the other point will be called Q. So we mark and call this point P, and this point here will be called Q. This is one arm of the angle that we are supposed to construct. Then we go back to the steps. The step says, step 2, what are you supposed to do? Step 2, we have just taken this. Step 2, we place the point of the compass at point P. With a convenient radius, draw an arc that passes through Q. In this case, the radius will be equivalent to PQ. So we go back. We have the compass point will be at P with a radius PQ. In this case, we can have, or a convenient radius, we have PQ or just a convenient radius. So, looking at it, we take the compass point. We place it at where? At P. I put my compass at P. Good. It is at P. We open the compass to Q. I have opened my compass to Q. I'm going to draw an arc. Now, in this case, I prefer to draw my arc above the line. But you can also draw it below if you want your angle to be below. But in this case, I want it to be above. So I'm going to draw an arc. I have drawn my arc. Now step 3 says, what did step 3 say? We have just done step 2. Step 3 says, place the point of the compass at Q. With the same radius, draw an arc that passes through P. That passes through P. Let this arc cut the arc drawn in step 2 at R. Let's go back there. The same radius. It is not to be changed. We move, bring it here. Wow. It has changed. And I'll take that again. So the same radius, we go to Q. And draw another arc. Good. Now you can see the two arcs. They are intersecting somewhere. The arc that passes through Q and the arc that passes through P are intersecting at R. So that point of intersection, we should refer to it as R. This point here, we refer to it as point R. What is the next thing? The next step is to take a ruler or a straight edge, join the point of intersection of the two arcs to P. That is what we are supposed to do. So we take our ruler, okay? So I join it there. Good. So we draw a line from R to P. Now, the angle that we have just formed is 60 degrees. The angle we have just constructed is 60 degrees, and it is angle QPR. We can also call it as angle RPQ. So the middle angle, the angle that is here, that angle is what is 60 degrees. We have done that construction. What did we do? First, you draw your straight edge, or draw one arm of the angle that we are supposed to construct. Stand at P, which is one point of the arm. Open to the radius PQ, you draw an arc above. You may draw it, if you want your angle to be down, you may draw it downwards. Then with the same radius, you stand at Q to draw another arc that will intersect the first one and refer to the point of intersection as R. join the point R to point P, that angle that is formed will be 60 degrees. Now we move on. We move on to step or method 2. How do we construct the second method of constructing an angle of 60 degrees? Okay? Now, step 1. The line to be drawn is AZ. That's the first thing we do. We draw a straight line and mark 2 points on it, A and Z. Okay? Then step 2, what is step 2 saying? Step 2 says mark of a point X on the line AZ. That is, at any point on the line AZ, you mark a point there and call that point X. Step 3. Step 3 says with center X and any convenient radius, draw an arc to cut line AZ at D. With center X and a convenient radius, draw an arc to cut line AZ. That's what we do. So we take our compass. What is the center? The center is X. A convenient radius, we draw with a convenient radius. Maybe this radius is convenient for me, and that's what I'm going to use to draw my arc. What did it say? Look at it. With center X and any convenient radius, draw an arc to cut line AZ at D. So I will draw an arc here. At this point, I'll draw an arc. Yes, I have done that. I take my compass out. The point at which the arc cuts AZ, I'll label it as D. That point is point D. Then go back and look at the steps again. Step 4 says with center D and the keywords here, the same radius as XD, draw an arc to cut the previous one at E. We go back with X as the center and a radius XD, which is the same radius that we were using. We draw another arc to cut the previous arc at E. So we bring our compass to point D. You can see we have not changed the radius. At this point, we draw another arc that will cut the first one. I have done that. So where the first arc intersects with the second arc, that point is labeled as E. And what is the next step? The next step is draw a line from X through E, and that line is XY. So the angle XYZ is the required angle of 60 degrees that we are supposed to construct. That's point E here. We draw a line from X through E, from X through E. We take our ruler, draw an angle through X, passing through E. Good. So when we draw a straight line there, that angle will be 60 degrees. So here is y. Angle y x z or z x y is 60 degrees. The angle that we have just constructed here, this angle is 60 degrees. So far, what have we done? If you look at what we have done so far here, we were using only two instruments, and those are a compass and a ruler. Now, what did we do? We first draw a line AZ. That line, we mark any point on it and refer to the point as X, with X as center and a convenient radius. We draw an arc that will intersect with the line AZ at a point called D. Now, with the same radius, we put the compass point at D to draw another arc that will intersect with the first one at point E. Then we join X to point E with a straight line. That angle that you have just constructed is 60 degrees. Now we move to another construction of an angle. Already, now we are going to construct that of 30 degrees. But already we have constructed 60. You were told in your previous lesson that when you bisect a line, you divide the line into two equal parts. If you bisect an angle, you will also divide the angle into two equal parts. So obviously, if I want to get 30 degrees, the best thing is to construct 60 and then bisect it. When I bisect it, I will get 30 degrees. So each of the halves of the angle will be 30 degrees. Because we know half of 60 is 30 degrees. So what are the steps? Step 1, construct an angle of 60 degrees as before, whether method 1 or method 2. Step 2, bisect the 60 degrees to get the required angle of 30 degrees. So let's go to that construction. First, construct an angle of 60 degrees. The steps are this. First, draw one arm of the angle that you are going to construct. I will call this, I'll mark 2 points on it, call this point. I will refer to it as point A. And this other point, I will refer to it as point B. I want to construct an angle of 60 degrees because that's the first thing I am supposed to do. I'll take my compass, then put the compass point at A, open to a convenient radius. Take the compass, put it at point A, open to a convenient radius. Okay? And what do you do next? You draw an arc upwards because that is where I want my angle to be. I draw an arc up this way. So the point at which that arc intersects with the line AB, I can call that arc as C. That point as C. Now with the same radius, we will be at C, put the compass point at C, and draw another arc to intersect with the first one. The compass point is at C. With the same radius, I'm going to draw another arc to intersect with the first one. I have drawn another one. Now, That point of intersection, we can call it point D. The point of intersection of the first arc and the second arc will be referred to as point D. What do? We draw a straight line from A to D. From A to D. Okay, so we draw a straight line from A to D. Good. Now, you can see the angle we have just drawn, it is 60 degrees. But why am I taking a different line? Because that is not the required angle that we want. That's why we are using this type of line which is broken. Okay? So, now we have got 60 degrees. What do? We want to get an angle of 30 degrees. Obviously, we are going to bisect 60 to get 30. So, we go on. Now, we can have it in two ways. First, we use C and D as our centers to do the bisection, or we mark another points on the two lines, that is AD and AC, to do the bisection. But first I'm going to use the centers C and D as my centers now. We put the compass point at C, open to a convenient radius. Okay, this radius is convenient for me. This radius is convenient for me. Then we are to draw an arc inside the angle that we have just constructed. We draw an arc inside the angle we have just constructed. We have drawn that. With the same radius, don't change it, go to point D. Draw another arc to intersect with the first one you have drawn inside. We draw another arc to intersect with the first one we have drawn. That point. Now you can see we have two arcs inside the angle that are intersecting. We can call that point of intersection as point E. Okay, the two arcs intersecting will be called point E. Then we take our ruler, join point A to E. We take our ruler, and draw a straight line there. The angle that we are required to construct is angle EAB or angle BAE. That angle is 30 degrees. That angle is 30 degrees. That is this angle here is the required 30 degrees that we are supposed to construct. Thank you for today.